Okay, so let's analyze another song while looking at rhythm, where the stresses are. How does Hamilton, this is going to be A. Ham, A. Burr, European servant, that thing. How does Hamilton, an arrogant, immigrant, orphan, dirty words, bastard, whoreson. So obviously we've got, stress, maybe a teeny bit of but I mean, there's an effort to make something like orphan one syllable and immigrant. You can almost not feel the other syllables. It's so heavy on the first one. So that's a trochee. But then step two, after we've identified it, becomes what effect is that having? It sounds like he's pounding the table, right? How to immigrant, orphan, they all sound like name calling. That's what he's doing. He's name calling, he's pounding the table. So we're using the the sound pattern to make that effect happen. And then we've got that near rhyme of whoreson and endorse. Uh, endorse is sounding like a curse too, even though we've moved on a little. So endorse is the second syllable being stressed, which is more like an iamb. Um, somehow endorse Thomas Jefferson, his enemy, a man he's despised since the beginning, just to keep me from winning. All right, Leslie Odom could have pronounced that better, but we've switched. We were doing these very simple boom, 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 but now we're getting more complicated. Now it's closer to talking, complaining, getting, again, a lot of syllables in, in fact, a lot of references when we say he wants to be in the room where it happens, and he's being kept from the room where it happens. We're near the end of the musical, of course, but we have just mushed together two completely different songs because, of course, the first one, How Does Hamilton Do This Thing, is like punctuation in this musical, right? And but yeah, Burr is mad. Hamilton has kept him from the room where it happens for the last time. For the last time, the stresses are kind of equally distributed. They're it's pretty much four words that are all important. Because what are we doing here? We're busy, for the last time. It all has an impact. It all has meaning. For the last time is the new idea, as opposed to these old ideas of, he's kept me from the room that it happened, and how does an orphan manage to do all this? But now there's a sense of completion. We're, we're no longer punching the table. We're no longer having a tantrum. We're drawing a firm line in the sand. So all these times we've got the rhythm and the sound patterns and these little syllables enhancing meaning. All right. If we were to listen to the music, which I'm not going to pause and do, but of course you could if you want to, the YouTube's available. Then this gets very sing-songy, doesn't it? This gets wordy, complicated. It's delaying. It's not having a tantrum. It's hiding what's going on in excessive wordage, excessive clutter. I am slow to anger, but I toe the line as I reckon with the effects of your life on mine. It's reasonably close to iambic. It's not really ba-bum, 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 but it's the same planet. So that would be a more regular form, a more traditional form. Again, the opposite of shouting, pounding the table, the opposite of Washington's outgunned, outmanned, which are not only spondes, but they sound like shouting. They sound like panicking. So you can use these to push the emotions in different ways. Again, this is very distant, very controlled. And what did you do in this time? Well, even if you were writing a letter saying, I'm going to shoot you and kill you, you said it in this very buried name a time and place. You said your obedient servant and kept things polite. You obeyed the forms, even if you hated somebody's guts. And that makes this very 1700s. We've had a lot of songs that are very modern or very modern elements. He is pushing traditional, which is another reason to go more iambic. So once again, I found ba-bum, 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 but I'm asking, what is it doing? All right. The only common thread has been your disrespect. Again, reasonably close to ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. And extra words. We've got a metaphor, common thread, and it's not a violent metaphor. It's not a fighty metaphor, right? It's just a common thread. We are downplaying. There is, in fact, a literary device called understatement. And what are we doing? We are understating. We are doing the opposite of dialing it up. We are dialing things down. Yeah. All right. Now you call me amoral, a dangerous disgrace. If you've got something to say, name a time and place. That is almost doggerel, almost sing-songy. That is very traditional rhythm, and guess what? It goes with very traditional rhyme, right? A, B, C, B. That's about as classic a rhyme as we get. I mean, it sounds like a Valentine, doesn't it? Except it's a reverse Valentine. I hate Valentine, so we're playing with more conventions, aren't we? All right. So as we keep going traditional, the rhythm is also pretty traditional. Now you call me amoral, a dangerous disgrace. If you've got something to say, name a time and place. Again, it's not as regular as you'll be back, you will see. But he's got some extra syllables in there. He's got a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions, but it's still close to regular. And then that extra little face to face tacked on obviously is a traditional rhyme, but as far as rhythm, it's a little more like for the last time, face to face. Simple words that are pretty much all highlighted, all stressed to emphasize that this is a really big moment, a really big thing we're doing. Yeah, he's not backing down. And then we do this very sing-songy, I have the honor to be your obedient servant. Bum, 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 over the river and through the woods. Bum, 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 bum. It's like we're waltzing. It's close to a waltz. We are, in fact, getting very sing-songy, getting very, the opposite of picking our fight. Okay. I have the honor to be your obedient servant, A. Burr. A. Burr is likewise a cutesy way to put it. And of course, we're paralleling our two guys with A. Ham and A. Burr are paralleled. Mr. Vice President, once again, going very formal on this sort of stuff. Once again, we're stuffing a lot of syllables in. Once again, we've got a very traditional rhyme, A, B, C, B. We get playful. Even if I said what you think I said, you would need to cite a more specific grievance. Bump a bump a bum bump a bump a bum bump a bump a bum bump a bump a bum. It's fast, it's perky, it's still sounding dancey, it's still sounding regular, it's still sounding playful. We're still shoving a lot of syllables in. And then there's the content. I'm not the reason no one trusts you. No one knows what you believe. We've got, homophones with no one knows, and so on and so forth. And the number of reversals, you kind of have to read it 2 or 3 times to work out what we're trying to say here. I am not the reason no one trusts you. No one knows what you believe. He's mocking Burr, but again, we've got a lot of people showing up in this sentence, huh? Um, I will not equivocate in my opinion. I have always worn it on my sleeve. Yeah, metaphor, kind of an obvious metaphor, but I will not equivocate on my opinion. Lots of extra syllables again, although he's not saying what his opinion is. He's being a little vague about what Burr said. He's being a little vague about what he said. And remember, this was a response to, "Hi, Hamilton, you said rude stuff about me." And yeah, that was the source of the challenge. "Hi, Hamilton, you said rude stuff about me. You call me amoral, a dangerous disgrace." Yeah. Yeah. There were particular times and places where Hamilton actually said that they consider Burr dangerous and shouldn't be trusted. And there is an even more despicable opinion that Hamilton has said about Burr. They said this, but there's some worse opinion that Hamilton has, and Burr is writing to him to say, "You said bad stuff about me. Name a time and place." Yes, that means let's go shoot at each other. Let's have a duel. "Hey," says Hamilton, "I'm not holding back. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm sure he's totally nice." Yeah, Burr holds back, Hamilton doesn't. Um, I'm not going to say nice stuff. If I think you're a jerk, I'm going to call you a jerk. That's who I am. I'm the guy who calls people a jerk. Although, again, he is having such playful fun with all this language, huh? "Even if I said what you think I said," yeah, I'm getting confused. I'm sure fictional Burr is getting confused by all this. "You would need to cite a more specific grievance. You accused me of having a bad opinion, and I said this to my friend in a letter, maybe, kind of. Eh, Which smack did I actually talk about you?" There could even be an implied double meaning of, actually, I say so much trash about you that I don't even know which time it was. Is it the time that I called you, a flip flopper? Is it the time that I called you untrustworthy? Is it the time that I said that you smell funny? Uh, tell me which insult I actually said, because I spend all my time at parties insulting you. Is kind of implied, is kind of thrown in there just for additional playfulness. Okay, then. "Here's an itemized list of 30 years of disagreements. Here's all the smack I've talked about. You pick the right one." And of course, additional jerkism, because if somebody says, "I'm really offended that you insulted me," writing back and saying, "Here's 30 years of all the nasty things I said about you. Which one was it? Here's a very long list of insults I've thrown at you," is not going to make the other person happy, is it? Yeah. All right. So I'm a little curious. I'm clicking. Did nothing happen? Oh, they're going literal with, in the musical, here's some of the trash he talks about Burr. Okay, fine. Yes. We were there. We saw it all. Okay. Yeah. Um, Here's an itemized list of 30 years of disagreements. Again, playful, getting extra words into the line. Sure. And then Hamilton, who's already messing with Burr and us, messes again and goes with a more simple language. "Hey, I have not been shy. I am just a guy in the public eye. Bump a bump a bump, bump a bump a bump, bump a bump a bump." Again, regular, playful, but much simpler language here. Feels like he's switching personalities, maybe even mocking Burr, who was using this very simple, short words to declare war. I don't want to fight, but I won't apologize for doing what's right." And then, I have the honor to be your obedient servant. Again, sounds mocking, sounds overly formal, sounds overly drawn out. Okay. And here, of course, we've got this good man. Good man. Does he think Hamilton is a good man? It does not feel that way. So it seems mocking. And we've got a bit of a spondee with good man, good man. Yeah, Burr is his temper is taking over. He's pushing for a fight. His words are getting less playful and more strident. And we've got these again single words like "where to bleed," good man. The repetition adds mocking. You can feel him like gritting his teeth, holding back as he's saying this. He is choking on his tongue. He is so ticked off at this guy. Answer for the accusations, of course, is alliteration, playing with language. Whereas, again, good man is just this very boom, boom. Contrasted with Hamilton's playfulness and multisyllabic answers as back he goes. Although, again, we get a little simpler with "it's what you do. I can't apologize because it's true." There he's seeming a little more authentic, a little more direct. And then we get another bottom line with just such simple language and such simple rhythm. Then stand, Alexander. We hawk it. Go on. Guns drawn. You're on. Again, just boom. Very simple, very direct. We're going to war. And yet we still wrap up with, "I have the honor to be your obedient servant." Because even if you're threatening death, you still keep it formal. So, all right, there was me digging in, all right, some rhythm and some other things, but I got some rhythm in to deep analysis.